مش مصابكم انتوا بس، ده مصابنا كلنا، احنا حاجة واحدة. دي ضربة إحباط.
نتألم كثيرا لهذا الشر الذي تخلى عن كل إنسانية. الذي يفعل هذا لا ينتمي لمصر على الإطلاق حتى وإن كان على أرضها.
لازم هننتصر لأن احنا أهل خير مش أهل شر.
لا تحسب أنك حققت شيئا.
مش هنسيب طارنا حتى بعد اللي قبضنا عليهم.
يحفظ الله وحدتنا الوطنية على أرض مصر.
أعزائي الشعب مصر كله، الضربة دي وجعتنا، لكن أبدا أبدا الضربة دي عمرها ما هتكسرنا.
Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the national unity among Christians and how it's not just a slogan but rather a basic reality. Muslims and Christians are always partners in everything. They have faced a lot together, and now it is a time to face together a furious war on terrorism to destabilize the country. This week a terrorist attack took place near a mosque before Friday prayers, and on Sunday a bomb explosion in the Coptic Christian cathedral complex in the Egyptian capital killed at least 25 and injured dozens. And to shed more light on that topic and means of countering terrorism, I'm happy to have with me journalist Mrs. Samia Sidhom. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Miss. And if you can tell us, first of all, what is the message that these terrorists are trying to send to Egyptians through these heinous attacks?
I tell you their message. I tell you how we received it. But I do not know what message they are trying to send. But I think they are targeting both. They are targeting Egyptians and they are targeting Copts. Copts are usually very peaceful people, so it's very easy to target them. But I think they wanted to hurt Egypt very much.
Now, actually, this is a real message, because they are not only targeting, as you've mentioned, Mrs. Samia, Christians, but they are also targeting Muslims. And it seems that it's quite tight for them right now in the Sinai, that they started infiltrating into the cities where it's harder to control. But how can we handle that? How can we control such attacks?
If you're speaking about attacks proper, then the only way to control them is security-wise. But there is something much more than the attack.
Within the people. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. There's something much more to it than the attack in itself. The problem is that they target the terrorists. They target the young people with certain thought that if they do this, if they attack people whom they think are not true believers, or people who belong to another religion, so they're definitely not believers in that sense, they would be doing something which Allah would be very happy about. It's easy to target young people because they're not mature enough. They take them very young. So the problem is how to counter such thought. Such thought is very, very, very dangerous. Many people say it is the problem is with the education system, but I think it's much more than the education system. It's a problem of the whole Egyptian community.
A few hours ago, maybe, or at dawn, a very important terrorist has been executed, Adel Habara, and he has been sentenced to death by the Egyptian judiciary. How do you believe the extremist groups will receive this, and do you expect any retaliatory moves? And if yes, how do you think that the security apparatus will confront such expected moves?
Well, of course they will retaliate. How will they retaliate? I do not know. It is up to the intelligence and security authorities to try and figure out how would that be and to try to abort any such attacks. But looking at the whole world, it's not such an easy job. Not with terrorists. I mean, they targeted Brussels, they targeted Paris, they targeted London, they targeted... Actually, I don't think any country in the world was able to escape terrorist attacks. They do their best and that's it. As far as how the message concerns terrorists themselves, as you said, they would retaliate, and I think they don't mind the execution. I mean, that's after all it's another suicide attitude. I mean, you're dying because you did something good which Allah would be happy about. So I don't think it would deter them. It would not deter the terrorists.
Now, there are calls by some Egyptians that the legislative process and the criminal procedures law should be amended to allow a faster prosecution and trials of the terrorists, because our law is the procedures are taking so long and too long to have a verdict, and that is a sort of make it undeterrent because they feel that they can get away with it. Now, do you agree or disagree with such calls? Do we really need to have strict laws concerning terrorism?
I don't think it would make much difference. Actually, I'm afraid that it would backfire in a way. Mm-hmm. Meaning what? If ultimately you're going to, there is the possibility of executing someone, I think you have to be very, very, very careful about issuing such a judgment. And as long as he's in prison, you know that he cannot do much damage because he's in prison. But if I am going to kill someone, to execute someone, I think I would need a lot of time to make sure such a decision is the right one. People get impatient, but people have already judged. I mean, if a man is sure this man is a killer and he has to be executed, so he wants to do it quickly. But I don't think that's fair. Because after all, he deserves a fair trial. If it takes time, it takes time. As long as I have him away from the community, not in any position to do any harm.
Okay, following the deadly attacks, the one on Friday, two incidents took place on Friday and one incident took place on Sunday. Later on, the Egyptian parliament discussed amending the counterterrorism law and also the article that has to do or stipulates military trials for civilians. Do you think that this move would curb such terrorist attacks, and do you believe that we need to amend the counterterrorism law to have a more strict law in order to bring an end to these unabated terrorist attacks?
As long as the terrorist attacks are backed by religious thought, I don't think it would deter them. But it would give the community a feeling that they are in control, that no one can do this to me and get away with it. But terrorist thought is terrorist thought. It will not change. You're only glorifying them.
Now, how can we combat such thoughts? How can we create the sense of citizenship and nationalism among our youth?
I'm not worried about the sense of nationalism or citizenship, because it is there, even if it is latent. If sometimes Egyptians keep on complaining of things and so on, but inside they are proud of being Egyptians.
Yeah, but among those who are entering into the terrorist groups, because if they felt that it's harming their nation, why would they do it?
They don't look at you as a nation. That's why you have to overhaul the whole thought, the whole attitude. And this is why President Sisi asked for a reform of the religious address. If the religious address tells him that your God is more important than your country, then of course he's going to believe that. There has to be some disengagement between loving and serving God and loving and serving your country. They shouldn't be contradictory. Why should they be contradictory? And who would convince him of that except the religious authorities? The religious authority that we have in Egypt is Al-Azhar. So this is why President Sisi has been again and again and again asking of Al-Azhar to reform the religious address. I mean, we're all with him. And by we, I mean all Egyptians, not Christians, not Muslims, nothing. All Egyptians are with this because we're all hurt by this attitude.
As a journalist, how do you evaluate the coverage of the latest incidents by the Egyptian media?
I think it was very reasonable. It was very reasonable. It focused mainly on its being an Egyptian pain. The pain was not only that of the Copts, it was the pain of all Egypt. And I want to tell you, this gave us as Copts a lot of comfort because it was very painful. And to feel that we are not alone in it, that all the Muslims around us share our pain, this made a lot of difference. Not only, and when I say almost, I mean not only the media, not only journals, not only television, not only, no. We could feel it from everybody. And this helped a lot.
Yeah, as soon as the attacks took place, hundreds of Egyptians flocked to the streets outside the church, chanting slogans again, denouncing terrorism, and they were even Muslims and Copts united.
Yes. So it was a lot of help.
So now, you mentioned that we need to change the religious discourse. Now, do you feel that it's only religion, or do you feel that would poverty play a role in it as well? Or it's mainly religion?
It may play a role in a certain sense, in the sense that in poorer districts, schools are less equipped to give a proper educational experience, where money is concerned, it is easy to lure someone with material comforts or with money and so on. In this sense, yes. But the counter argument is there are many poor people who do not fall victim with that. So it goes both ways.
Yes. Now, so what can we do in addition to changing the religious discourse, which is, of course, as an average citizen, it's something that is out of my hand. It's, as you've mentioned, up to Al-Azhar.
No, it's not.
As the average citizen, what can we do to help?
Right now, I think it's a long-term problem. On the short term, as far as the average citizen, what the average citizen can do is that everyone could teach his children or her children tolerance and respect for the other. Not only tolerance, but respect. But we are still talking about thought. Not much else can be done. And thought is a long-term process. But you have to start somewhere. If you don't start, it will never change. You have to begin somewhere. So, of course, gearing our educational system towards bringing up individuals who can exercise critical thinking in whatever they do would help a lot, because then it wouldn't be easy for me to tell you our religion says that and you would just believe it, because then you can tell me no, it doesn't, or you can tell me no, you understand it in a different way. So critical thought is very important in this, not only what Al-Azhar says, because remember that many people view Al-Azhar as some sort of official religious organization. This doesn't help much. because people don't want to be told what to do. So the more basic thing that we can do is to teach our children from early on to have some critical thinking. And this is a problem of the whole community, not only the education system, because even as parents, if they do not accept opposition, well, that's a big word to use with children, but I mean objections and different ways of things from their children, then how can you accept a child to really have critical thought? It has to go on all levels, on the level of the family, on the level of the school, and so on. I think if we really would be able to foster critical thinking in the next generations, then we would have done something.
Other than that, Mrs. Samia, the critical thinking and tolerance, other than those two traits, if we can say, injecting them into our youth, what other factors can make a proper or can build up a proper society with no extremist thoughts, or with moderate with going with moderate teachings of either Islam or the Bible?
I think this is the basis. I can't think of anything else, except if you're talking about practical measures, for instance, like being always on your guard, which is something we Egyptians lack. We are never always on our guard. We tend to relax. You're on your guard once something happens, and you rush and you take all the necessary measures to secure your church, your home, your whatever, and then things get relaxed and nothing happens and you tend to relax. So this is on the practical level, but this does not help. I mean, this has nothing to do with building a society that would be tolerant. This has something to do with protecting myself.
Well, what about the role of the social media? Because actually we're talking about television and newspapers, and these are not as trending among the youth as the social media.
Yes, but what can you do about the social media? I mean, the social media is a reflection of how people think.
Do you feel that we should have create certain websites or have certain more tweets about religious tolerance and education, or do you feel that these will be artificial?
Have?
We have.
I think.
But do you feel that we need more, or do we need to censor it? How can we handle it, in a sense?
Well, it would be nice if we can have more tolerant sites or more tolerant posts, or that would be really nice. But as I tell you, you don't manage social media. Social media is managed by the people. So this is why I said it's a reflection of what the people think.
Mrs. Samia, as we're wrapping this segment up, your final recommendations, please. We have 20 seconds.
Well, I think the most important thing would be to help reform the religious address and to foster critical thinking.
Yes. We really do appreciate your insight, Mrs. Samia Sidom, an Egyptian journalist. Thank you so much for being with us on Nile Cruise.
Thank you.
And dear viewers, now we move on to a short break, and we'll be back to resume the remaining segments of Nile Cruise here on Nile TV International.